So we're here again then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like that slurp?
I really like the slurp, actually. It sounded like a satisfying...
That is refreshing on a nice warm day.
I can't understand people that say that hot drinks are refreshing. I just don't understand it.
Nice, refreshing, hot cup of coffee.
You're going to make a really great old person when you get older.
If you could zoom in on my eyes, you could see them tearing up a bit, but I'm just trying to keep straight-faced and normal. Trying to retain the pain.
You're just going to be one of those old people in 40-degree heat. It's like, oh, I'm parched. Get me a cup of tea. It just doesn't work.
So what are we doing this week, Jono?
This week we are discussing our lovely Chapter 2, 1914.
Chapter 2, 1914.
Well, this came out in 2014, September 2014.
How many years ago? 6 years ago. 5.5 years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Our difficult second album.
Oh God, yeah, the difficult second album.
It was tough. This was probably quite one of the biggest challenges, going from a watch that was purely designed almost in isolation because we didn't really know how well it was going to go down. So we were just like, let's just do a really amazing watch from that era.
Yeah.
To, okay, how are we going to move this forward now? Because we don't want it to just look like a completely new watch. We want it to have all the references that we now show in every collection from the previous collection. And so it was quite hard, I think, because it was like the first one was so iconic. Thankfully, I didn't have to design it. So, I passed that on to you.
I think that we went through a lot of iterations where I almost kind of made it too modern. I remember definitely going through lots and lots of screen shares where it was just too, it didn't look anything like the first collection. And because what we were trying to do is show this timeline. So trying to push it along and trying to make it its own unique thing was actually quite difficult. And
sorry, I was going to say, do you want me to just get up on screen just some of your early CADs? And also, I think maybe the sketch that's you're going to love this. The sketch that basically sparked the design. I don't know whether you've seen this.
Yes, I do want to see that, Jonathan.
Okay, right. So I'll start off with just your CADs, and then I'll show you the other one afterwards. Can you see that?
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Your CADs have come a long way.
Look at the realism.
You can it's like you can pick it up, can't you?
Yeah, it's like I can wear that right now.
I mean, you can see that the dial's actually almost identical, like the hands and everything. But yeah, those shoulders really were quite a tricky transition to get those shoulders right, from being such a strange shoulder on the 1905 that was just a wild lug. How we transition. And so I remember us going through these designs. I can't remember where we were now. Maybe in Oxford or something like that. We'd gone away for the weekend.
Yeah. I
remember. But yeah, it was just like, I just don't know whether they're just a bit too new for what we want. These are other colorways here. And then I believe the next sketch that I'm about to show is basically what basically just stuck. So I think there's a before. I think there's a before and after here, and I don't know whether I've got them in the right order.
Is this a John Shakespeare signature sketch for that scene?
I think it might have been one of my sketches, but so this is what we ended up with.
Oh, look at that.
And then we weren't happy with that, so this is basically what became of it.
Put the little kink in.
Yeah, the little kink there. That was just enough.
Yeah. So what we're doing is the previous collection had the shoulder protruding from the bottom. Yeah. However, this time we've got to show some development where we're beginning to modernize the shoulders into something a bit more contemporary.
Yeah.
So we rested on a solution that looked a little bit like that.
It's well, if you look at the side profile, it doesn't look too dissimilar to that. I think that was a pretty decent sketch. Am I back in the room now? I've
You're
sort
back in the room. I was
okay.
going to ask, do you have a side profile? Are we?
I think I did, but
You decided to delete
no,
it. It
I
was
think I
no.
took it out just because it was it didn't. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the photograph. It didn't really show much at the time. I probably should have done. I think there probably are some when I go through some of the development. And we can show them later on when we actually show some of the samples. But yeah, so that was, that took a lot of time to get right, really.
Yeah.
And also in terms of, well, I think I can maybe go to my other device here to show you. So just give me 1 second. Let me try.
I've got to entertain now, don't I? I've got to say something interesting.
Yeah, just
Don't put this much pressure on me. Don't
think.
put this much pressure on me. Oh no! Oh no! He's gone. John, where are you? Say this. Yeah.
Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this was basically the very first sample that we had back,
Can you bring it closer to the screen a bit?
which, as you can see, is incredibly shiny.
Look at the shine on that.
And I think the problem with this was that the first watch we did, the 1905, was so uncluttered. It was literally just a case with some lugs that came out the back of it. Whereas because we now had these lugs coming out the corners of it, and there was kind of quite a lot going on with the kind of knurled bezel and everything, because it was so shiny, it just hit light from every single angle, and it just looked too much. I remember when
the etched sides on the 1905 definitely helped it from looking less bright.
Yeah, like you can see here on the top view, that was almost identical to the 1905. We wanted it to almost look like we'd clad the sides on top of a 1905 case, so that it kind of almost through.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was meant to be a World War I watch, and it was meant to look like troops were using them in the trenches, and it just looked like so bling. It was just not very nice at all.
Bit too pristine for our liking.
So there's only one in existence of these. And I remember, Sam, you wore this for quite a while because you liked it so much. But this was our second effort, which was basically our gunmetal.
Yeah.
Which was far nice. I still like this. I still think this looks cool. Which is like more of a satin look to it.
Yeah, that sort of matte finish is really nice.
Yeah. It just takes the edge off it, and I think it does look nice. And I think had we not been doing a watch from the trenches, I think this probably would have been the watch that we'd gone with. But I think we almost wanted it to look like, not that a soldier had just taken it to war, but almost like he'd brought it back from war, and that it was just like dirty and gnarled, and it had like seen action. Why we then ended up, plumbing for the black one, which Sam will probably show you a little bit more later on.
Well, it looks evil, doesn't it? It looks great.
I just want to show you this though, and I don't know whether you'll be able to pick this up that much on screen, but this was one of the original samples. It's actually a silver dial. So we ended up going with a white dial, and you probably can't actually see the fleck on this. I don't know whether you can or not, but that's actually like a kind of matte silver.
Yeah.
Which is what we didn't end up doing, because it just looked like we wanted this like dirty looking watch, and then it had a silver dial on it. It just didn't work. It just didn't look right at all. So but I will I'll mute myself and move back.
I remember we had a bit of a time developing shoulders because they were just that little bit too long, and we spent a bit of time making sure that it had the same level of comfort that the 1905 had.
Sorry, I just moved over. About the strap.
It was the shoulders, how they protruded a little too far from the case initially.
They stuck out miles, didn't they? And it just looked silly. Yeah. We ended up having to pull those back in.
Yeah. But it's nice seeing the original sketches and thinking like the typography and the dial and all the components within the watch itself, other than the case, kind of came out almost as we intended at the beginning.
And I think one thing as well to note, that whenever we do, like we said in the last video, we try and have things that are fitting from that era. but every font that we've ever used on the watches have been selected because they were brought out in that time. So this is like, oh, this is a modern interpretation. It's like, no, we went back and tried to find fonts that were of that era so that, you know, it looked right. And we say with all of them, we kind of like it that you could walk back in time and wear one of these and people wouldn't bat an eyelid. They'd think that it was a watch from that era. Or you can wear them now as people are and they look like modern watches. I don't know how we do that every time, but it's just something that we kind of subconsciously try and do, really.
Yeah, give them each their own personality.
Yeah.
Their own character and own style, something that will fit a different wardrobe every time, but not diluting the identity of the brands, because they need to all be unique. They can't just be a soulless object.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to show your watches on your desk?
Yeah, I've got the range with me here. So
there, Sam's just moving over to his.
This is the range I've got in front of me. Can you see that all right?
Yep.
This is the white edition that we have ended up with. So we retained the matte finish that we had on the silver prototype, but all of the watches have had the black iron plating to differentiate it from the 1905. So when you look at them together, they don't appear like the same watch, essentially. We kind of felt like if we retained the silver finish, there wouldn't be much of a difference between the two, and wouldn't really be a reason for it to exist. But yeah, the 1914 is much more streamlined. You can compare the side profiles and how the lugs protrude from the bottom really do add a lot of thickness to it. So we're able to shave a lot off from them protruding from the side. Yeah, it's almost like the Diet 1905, the 1914, but it's got this really aggressive look to it.
There's still as well, though, where you just had them side by side, you can start to see the dial features taking shape. But in terms of what we would now consider our signature, like, design cues, in terms of like that logo and the markers and things.
Yeah, we've got the tuning fork indices that we've retained. It was like looking at iconic brands. You know, you look at your Rolex Submariner, for example, and those watches are unique, and you can tell them a mile off. So from the other side of a room, you'll be able to see somebody wearing one of those literally from the formatting of the circles and triangles on the dial. And we wanted to retain that in our brand, like have an identity to it that almost looked a little like alien, like never seen before, with a design language we could carry on from range to range. Yeah, until we yeah.
I think what would be nice, Sam, as well, is like at the end of all of these chapters is to just have almost like an illustration where we delete everything off the dial apart from those markers, and you will instantly be able to say, well, that's a 1914, that's a 1929.
Yeah, exactly. We kept the same color families, but applied different highlights in this collection. So the white more or less stayed the same combination, white, black, the red that we use on every watch. But we started to experiment with the blue, cream and black. With the blue, in fact, this is like a really deep blue dial. It's like inky blue. We wanted this kind of like mustardy highlight, which is the beginning of us starting to play around with color. Color is really important to us, but it was just trying to find the right time to introduce that in our collections. Yeah, the 1905s, they're quite straightforward with the color usage, i.e. they're applied to the dial, and we kind of go to the effort of finding the perfect leather to match that. But with the 1914, yeah, we started playing around with highlights on the numbers and hands. Yeah, I really like this watch.
That is cool. The khaki and the brown and the blue just go so nicely with that.
It's like there's red, black, the the brown strap, the khaki indices. I mean, all of them have the silver tone case backs. But this is when we started to realize, like, right, we can be really clever with color here, and it still look cool.
I think the thing is as well, like you just mentioned all those colors there. There's almost quite a lot going on, but I think
there's a lot going on.
that, like, even though it has a red crown, a red logo, and red on the kind of second track and the second hand, it doesn't. You don't think, oh my god, there's too many colors on there. It's still, the red's almost like a neutral color for us.
And then as well, it's all about finishes. So we wanted to play around with finishes on lots of different components on the watch to build a lot of contrast on the product. So matte finishes coupled with polished finishes, but done in a nice take rather than it being too bling or garish. And we've got these have the new straps as well. The new strap materials. So we've moved away from veg tan to oil tan.
And one thing, we used the same tools that we showed you last week, but we actually, it's a far more manual process when we do these straps, because we wanted them to be more refined. So we would cut them with the original tools, but then we have to basically bevel and burnish all the edges just to kind of make them appear a little bit softer and not quite as raw. And then that, with the addition of the oil tan leather, basically meant that strap straight out of the box is a far softer strap. A really nice leather. That
this one's definitely my favorite, 1914, the black edition with the yellow highlight. I think this one matches the era of those watches probably the best. I just think that looks badass.
The numerals just match that tan color so nicely without it just being like if that had been a silver case on that would have just been too much. There'd have been too many reflections, too much color. But it's like, even though there's orange and kind of yellowy orange there and red, the black case and the black dial just literally almost neutralizes it. Really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want me to have a look at on these?
Well, I think that probably leads on to, I can show you some very early strap development that I did, which people probably haven't ever seen these, but this is just something that we were potentially going to do on the 1914, where we were going to have this cuff.
Oh yeah.
So that was just something that was kind of Photoshop. That's a 1905 strap on there, and you can see it's still got the silver case on it. We were going to have this cuff that just slid through the back of it, and we did kind of go through a few. This was just a mock-up to see how it would work. And it was a case of, well, how do we still all this effort's gone into the case back, and we want the case back to look beautiful, but we don't then just want to hide it by having this cuff. So we were kind of toying with the idea of having this cut out of the leather. And
it's always been such a shame, because we started off with these hour rules on how to design a watch, and it was difficult for us to justify the fact that, okay, we were going to release our second watch, and we've hidden the case back that we've put so much effort into, because we put effort into every part of the watch to make sure it isn't just your standard block edged cylindrical shapeless object. And it's like, okay, well, we're releasing our second collection and we've hidden the case back. We just thought, well, we can't do that. It's not really part of our ethos.
And I think though as well, I look at that now and I think, actually, that still looks really quite cool. And I don't know why we didn't do it, to be honest. I just don't know whether we just thought maybe it wasn't right, or if anyone thinks they think we should do that, then let us know. Get in contact, because we now know how to make these easier than when we showed you the tools last week, and we could probably do them. But if you think that that's something that you'd like, let us know, because it's something that I kind of quite like to revive. And it would literally, the whole idea was that you'd literally just kind of slide it behind, each strap, slide it into it, so it wouldn't really take that much time to actually put on. But it'd be nice to kind of add that to the strap stuff.
Yeah, it adapts to a completely different style, doesn't it, with the introduction of a cuff that you can just interchange whenever you want to. So
exactly. So I think that's all I have for the strap, to be honest. But I have.
Show me what other goodies you've got. Show me what other goodies you've
Well,
got.
I was going to go through the packaging, packaging / screen print. So I can show you some stuff here. So this is a very tiny. Whenever we make the packaging, I always just make it on an A4 bit of paper just to kind of wrap it up and see like how it looks. So this here is the very first prototype of the 1914 packaging, which is basically the eagle-eyed amongst you will see that this pattern behind is actually a William Morris design, because this is the whole inspiration behind the design of the chapter 2. And I just wanted to see how it would look. Like you can see the lines that kind of go horizontally across and at different angles. They are identical to the 1905. Like we wanted the 1905 to almost like be this benchmark design that we just keep adding to.
Yeah, we want the packaging to develop as much as the watch every time, don't we?
Yeah, and so this was just to see like how this kind of complicated background might work with the quite simple design that we did beforehand. And so here is the very first sketch that I did for the screen print. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that?
Yep.
So this was because the whole backstory of the 1914 is around the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which was the kind of trigger that started the First World War. We wanted the screen print to almost replicate that, but in a pretty abstract way and in a W.T. author way. So this was, when I show you a little bit later on, this was going to be the actual gun that was used to kind of, at the time, to assassinate the Archduke. But it was basically like intertwined with all these kind of author roses. So that was something that I thought that would be quite easy to do. And then when I started drawing it, I was just like, oh God, what have I let myself in for here? Because it just kept more and more complicated. And I needed to make sure it was almost a repeat pattern as well. So that when we used it on the packaging, it was big enough to kind of use over the whole packaging. And so I'm just going to stop sharing that. Has that stopped? Am I back on?
You're back in the room.
Because I have I think I've got a PDF of it. Sorry. Just keep talking amongst yourselves.
What can I don't know, I could sing. Have a joke.
Oh, here it is. Right, okay, I've got it now. Sorry about that. So a window, here we go. So this is what it eventually became. So you can kind of see the repeat pattern is kind of mirrored down the rose line in the middle of the guns. But yeah, that took a lot of work to draw that, an awful lot of work to make sure that it all lined up. And then we basically
that's the screen print available in different colors that would be numbered with the watch, and that pattern engulfs the entire packaging, I guess.
Yeah.
That print.
And they're all embossed as well. As like an embossed A down by the printed A. And yeah, all the colors for the packaging up until I think the 1940 were all, because we kind of brought out 4 watches, maybe 1934 actually, we always just had CMYK. So the yellow was for the cream, the magenta was for the white, the blue obviously the blue, and then the black was the black. And then this one here, the red one at the very start, we always get, I don't think we do it now because we don't do the CMYK thing, but we always used to get a red Pantone, the Pantone specific to our trademark logo. And then we were just going to basically give these out, really. But we didn't.
I unboxed one the other day. I found one when I was unboxing stuff. Yeah.
Well, we just never really gave them away, and so we do still have some. So yeah, but they're kind of they'll be archive finds when we're dead and gone, and people are finding like, oh my God, have you seen this? But yeah, so that was the. Let me just go back into the packaging, which is here, because then I can show you the actual packaging, how it came out. So I present. So this was the 1905, like we talked about before, which was the very basis for everything. You can see these lines that I mean, do you want to explain those lines more, Sam?
I mean, it will make me look like. I mean, it will make me look like I'm into the occult. So let's not.
Yeah, now's the time, right? If we're going to talk about it, you might
Well,
as well.
if you flatten out the 1905 packaging, it's basically a pentagram.
There you go.
And we apply graphics to that every year now. Actually, well, we started bending the rules, didn't we? Up until a couple of years ago.
We did.
And but yeah, like you flatten the packaging out, and it's basically a star shape, and we retain that as a motive going forward into other collections.
And also, weirdly, like you can see the final design of the 1914 here. In the story, there's a chapter that comes with every book, because you can see on the front it says chapter 2 and the last one said chapter 1. We have a story that comes with it that has all the kind of photographs of the watches. And in that kind of mini chapter, it basically explains what W.T. Author, this fictitious watchmaker back in the early 1900s, is doing through this timeline. But and I believe we checked in on the 1968, and weirdly, we're still doing it. But in the chapter, there always appears a character in order from a tarot book, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So the full, the lovers. I can't remember the orders of them now, and I don't even know where we're up to.
Well, no, I don't know. We haven't done the 70s yet, but the 60s, we actually look back, and then in order of sequence that we would have got up to, I think it was a chariot. And the whole premise of the 1968 is about like motorsport. So we kind of almost did it by accident, but we started off doing it, and then I think got
overwhelmed.
Yeah, like how do we shoehorn the Empress into this story? But I think we've done quite well on the whole without necessarily really focusing that much energy on it.
Well, yeah, we've got collection 8 coming out. The card is Justice or Strength, so that needs to fit into our story somewhere. But I think we've managed to tick all the boxes on the other cards.
Like I think the 1953, which was our 5th watch.
Yeah.
That was about the Queen, wasn't it? Did we have something in there about the Queen? What was that? No, maybe not. I thought that was maybe the Dutch.
Empress.
Yeah,
the Hierophant.
Oh, but yeah, so that was one of the little things that we started at the very start that we wanted to kind of put into. I don't even know why we were doing that, to be honest. I don't know what the conversation was.
I was going through dark times, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. And so that's all still present in the watches. What else have I got? Strap development, watch development, workshop. Well, this was. Oh, actually, we'll talk about the.
Let's talk about the workshop.
Oh, I was going to say the next exhibition, just because that was the first thing I put up on my screen.
Go on.
The second exhibition we did was the East London Design Show again, but a year later.
Yeah.
And so we kind of we learned from our mistakes in terms of people thinking we were selling picture frames, and we had a complete overhaul. And so if I show you, we basically laid out these huge leather hides, which was the leather that we made the watch straps out of. But we basically deconstructed like the watches and just split them out, still using these kind of props, but like showing the kind of tools that we were using to rivet things at the time, and just a few random other props that I think, were they your granddad's or something? They were from a school, weren't they?
School was getting rid of them. And I said, I'll have them. All these awesome tools and equipment. We've got a bit of a habit of doing that.
I'm a bit of a hoarder with crap like that.
Finding stuff that people are throwing out, you think that's actually really good. I'll have it.
My wife would agree that I like to just take old things and rehome them, even if it means not doing anything with them and just putting them in the workshop. If you walk around our workshop, there's just everywhere you look, there's something.
Aladdin's cave.
Something old, and I just think if we move, then it's just going to be a nightmare. But yeah, so you can see here, Sam, I think you did this lovely little display here.
That lovely display.
Yeah, we just thought it'd be quite cool so that people could actually see like kind of what went into the watches, really, because normally some people would probably never ever take the backs off them. They'd probably take it to be serviced somewhere, and they might take the backs off them, but yeah, we want to kind of show the different components.
I quite like that leather surface, I quite like that idea. Maybe there's something in that.
It is nice, and I quite like that as my normal surfaces. But bearing in mind how expensive those hides are, I don't know whether you'd approve it to have as a cutting mat. Maybe. But yeah, you can see here these are the kind of the new straps. So we'd kind of learnt from feedback from the 1905, and we'd started to invert the keepers, so it was the suede side up on the keepers, just because occasionally they were quite sharp with the keepers because of how thin they were. So we thought if we turn them inside out, it'd be quite a nice design feature. So you get a nice contrast of the different colours of leather, but also they'd be softer on your wrist. And they do, like, it's not like they will stay like that forever, because they do start to kind of burnish down quite quickly. So if you're kind of thinking, oh my God, that's quite bright, it doesn't stay like that forever. And it kind of beds in quite quickly. But yeah, that was basically our second exhibition. We actually, did we win an award or come runners up in an award or something like that? That then gave us a shop.
Yeah, pop-up shop.
Was that? It was, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think we got an award from that show that gave us. We had a pop-up shop in Greenwich for a month, which was exciting.
Yeah.
Like literally in Greenwich Market, like in the actual Greenwich Market zone, in one of the little side alleys.
I think you manned that, and I think I came down for the weekend. I remember going past the Cutty Sark.
Yeah, just the Cutty Sark.
But it was a long way from Shropshire for me to like go in every day.
Yeah, I think it was a bit too long for you. So yeah, commuting in from Essex wasn't too bad. But yeah, we lived there for a month, which was a good experience because we wouldn't have got given that opportunity in normal circumstances. Like at that point, we definitely couldn't have afforded it.
No.
But yeah, it kind of gave us a bit of a taste of face-to-face retail, not in a show environment. Yeah, good experience.
I'll show you, and obviously as we move on, I'll show you more images, but I'll show you how our workshop progressed. This was when we moved out of I think me and Sam had moved out of that house at that point, where we were when we were doing the 1905. So we basically needed like an actual area that we could start doing stuff from. And so
but it was like, we've got 2 collections now, and building 2 collections in a spare room doesn't work.
It doesn't, especially with like the amount of packaging that we needed to buy. But this was
we needed space.
This was our very first workshop, which was a lockup in a farm building somewhere in deepest, darkest Shropshire. And so it looked pretty, pretty.
Well, once we converted it into a workshop, it looked great.
Yeah, well, this was pretty basic to start with, but I got the guy that owned it, the farmer, to plumb me in some electric, and it had lighting in there, and I had a little heater and everything. Yeah, exactly. The one good thing, well, kind of good and kind of bad, was that it had no mobile phone signal, like within about a mile radius of it. So it just meant that if I'd forgotten something or if someone needed to get hold of me, they couldn't get hold of me till I'd nearly got home. And then they were like, oh, can you just pop back and get something? And I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, I've literally just come from there. But so this is kind of how it almost ended out once we kind of kitted it out, which I thought looked quite cool.
Yeah, very cool.
It was all, beautifully organized by Sarah, my wife, and the other director in the company. So all the little boxes had all their kind of labeling on them, so we knew exactly what everything was doing. And then, we just slowly started filling it with more and more stuff to the point where it was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I think we were about a year.
Exactly. And then we eventually moved to the workshop that we're in now. And this was then a 40-minute drive away. So it then just meant if I forgot something, it was even more of a kick in the teeth when I had to drive back and get it. So that was our very first workshop, which is quite cool.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly, yeah. And then I think the other folder that I was going to show was sorry, I had all of these up at the first.
This is great television, John. Great
It
television.
was this, which I was just going to show the photos of the 1914, like the hero photos, and just explain a little bit about them. Can you see this?
Yeah.
So, like we said in the last photo, in the last video, the kind of iconic image of the watch on a black background became the kind of norm. This is the only watch that we did that wasn't on a kind of 45-degree angle. So we did these straight on. And I don't know why we did that, but I basically just did all of them as...
It just looked nice.
Yeah. And I think I did them all at the same time as well. So it was just easy to do them all straight on. But these are all, I basically, for this photo shoot, I went to my brother's house up in Preston because he has previously been in the Navy and he is in the RAF, and he is a bit like I'm a hoarder of just general old tat. He is a hoarder of basically anything militarian, preferably World War II. So when I actually went up and I said, have you got any props? He's like, yeah, loads. And I went up there and I said, what have you got? And he said, oh, it's mainly World War II. It was like, well, that's not much of a help, so I want World War One. But he basically went down into his archives and rummaged around and managed to find as much stuff as he could from World War One. And so I think that's his actual naval hat. That's not a 1914 naval hat. But all these maps and things.
You're spoiling the mystery, John. That is definitely a 1914 hat.
But these maps and everything were like period maps. I think that might have been of France. You can kind of make it out there. In fact, look there, that little bit bottom left of that the watch. It says Arras. That's where I went on my second year secondary school French exchange. Arras.
Well, there we go. It's all come round.
Yeah, it's looking into place.
Gone full circle.
Yeah. I was actually just talking about it with my wife this morning because I found a photo of me with my French exchange partner, Laurent Lautrec, and Sarah was like, who's this in this photo? And she thought it was my cousin. I was like, yeah, that's Laurent Lautrec. And she was like, who the hell's that? I'm like, oh, it's my French exchange partner. But so this was this was the blue one. Again, like some of the maps and some of the kind of flying regulations and things. This is my actual flying jacket here, which I thought would look really quite cool.
It's not John's flying jacket. It's a genuine jacket from 1914 to reflect the era of the watch.
This was the photo that actually featured in Shortlist magazine when we got a shout in there, which was really
cool. We had a lot of press, didn't we, this year?
Yeah, we did.
Shortlist amongst a lot of different articles.
I can't remember what the tagline was. It was something like, there was a massive caption that was something like "Forged in the Sands of Time" or something like that on the Shortlist advert, which was really cool. And then here we go, just on some more maps.
Very nice.
And look, this was a printout of the original newspaper from 1914 when Archduke Franz Ferdinand was shot, which we thought would be quite cool to have in the background. And
we managed to get the word "ass" in twice. And not only once, but twice. That's our biggest claim to fame. Getting the word "ass" in twice into a photo.
I think, Like that. But the thing as well with all of these photos, and I know it looks like, when we put these photos up, that there might be kind of 4 or 5 photos that we kind of show, but when I get back from any photo shoot, there is always probably about 500 photos, and it's a case of going through every single one, and there might be like the tiniest of thing that's different, but it's like, no, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, until you find the right one. And so all of these photos, I think all of those photos that you see there was another colorway photographed on that same scene, but we've just never shown that, and I've never spent the hours kind of going in and messing around the photograph just to be able to show that. But we've got folders and folders full of like gigabytes of these photos. Eventually, they'll go in this coffee table book, along with those amazing sketches we showed you earlier. I mean, you can see in the background there, Sam, that his sketching's really come along since.
Did we not clarify that they were yours, John?
It's never my strong point, really. I kind of get the point across, but my sketches never look beautiful. They were always very much very much a necessity rather than like having any flair. I'll leave that to you.
I'll leave you to building them because I can't.
But I think I don't know if I've got much else to say. I think that's
Well, I think we've spent far too much time rambling on. Do people still care? We'll see. We don't know.
Hopefully as well. My mic's been better this week. My mic was pretty dodged last week, so apologies for that. But it was the first week, and we tried to iron it out. So hopefully this has been better. Sam, have you managed to hear me?
I've heard you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's to next week. What are we doing next week, Sam?
Chapter 3, 1929, Art Deco.
Nice. Can't wait.
Let's
just leave it there.
Just leave it there.
Okay.
Say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.